Hello again, and let's kick things off at the EU meeting holding in Brussels as leaders are set to formally accept Ukraine and Moldova as candidates to join the continental bloc, a bold move triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It usually takes years for countries to become members of the European Union, but the Brussels summit decision will be a symbolic step that signals the EU's intention to reach deep into the former Soviet Union. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has already welcomed the bloc's green light, while both Ukraine and Moldova are expected to be welcomed into the EU's waiting room today. Georgia will be given a European perspective, but has been told it must fulfill conditions before winning candidate status. Behind the triumphant rhetoric, however, there is concern within the EU about the bloc, how the bloc can remain coherent and united as it continues to enlarge. In the meantime, Ukraine's ambassador to the EU, Chensov Veselov, says the prospects of EU membership motivates Ukrainian soldiers on the front line.
Situation, so it's...
Yes, I think it's also a signal to Moscow that the idea that Ukraine and also other countries of the former Soviet Union cannot belong to the Russia spheres of influence.
Ukraine, it will be a semi-colony of the EU, so they operate this kind of a...
Yes, it's very important for whole Ukrainian society, for the army, and they have a clear reason to fight for. For me, it was also very surprising, and I was told by my friends and colleagues that our soldiers, they're calling home and asking from the front line what is happening with our candidate status. It's amazing how important it is for Ukrainian people. So it's a matter of dignity, it's a matter of fighting for the country which has a European future.
It's important that we are going to get this, and they need to deal with issues.
In another development, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says Sweden and Finland's application for NATO membership will be addressed during the Madrid summit next week. Finland and Sweden applied for NATO membership in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but have faced opposition from Turkey, which has been angered by what it says is Helsinki and Stockholm's support for Kurdish militants and arms embargoes on Ankara.
For Ukraine. And I welcome that President Zelensky will address leaders at our summit. We will improve burden sharing with more defense investment to do more together. And we will address Finland and Sweden's historic applications for NATO membership, ensuring that the security interests of all allies are addressed while making progress in their accession process. Turkey has legitimate security concerns, and we are working to resolve those with Finland and Sweden.
Lithuania's president says his country must raise defense spending to 3% of GDP to enable it to host a much larger number of NATO troops. President Gitanas Nausėda says his country did not have the necessary infrastructure to host a brigade-sized unit. He says he could not give a precise figure of how much would be required, but estimated it would be in the hundreds of millions of euros. Lithuania has earmarked 1.5 billion euros. That's 2.52% of its gross domestic products in the nation of 2.8 million people to defense next year. NATO allies remain split over troop deployments, and extra weaponry should be based with eastern states closer to Russia, seeking greater permanent reinforcements on their soil, although they may lack the structure to accommodate them. Estonia's Prime Minister Kaja Kallas says her country was proposing additional troops to be allocated to defend the Baltic countries in case of an attack, but not permanently stationed there. The proposal is realistic considering how mobile the forces right now are, according to her.
To provide the best conditions for the training, for the living, And also we have to have in mind that if we are talking about a permanent presence of some battle groups here, we have to take care about also living and accommodation of families, because this is entirely different status.
The crisis around grain trapped in Ukraine must be resolved in the next month, so says British Foreign Minister Liz Truss, when she offered Britain's expertise to help resolve the situation while in Ankara today. Her Turkish counterpart, Mevlut Cavusoglu, says Turkey is taking seriously claims that Ukrainian grain was stolen by Russia and is investigating those allegations. He says Turkey would not allow grain stolen by Russia or any other country to be brought to Turkey. I want to bring in now the continental chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Organization Europe, Dr. Bashir Obashakola. He's right now in Moscow. Thank you, Dr. Obashakola, for joining me on the program today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I know it's probably, your first time speaking in public about, the war in Ukraine and how this is going. But it's gone on for a little more than 3 months. You think that, given the circumstances, we'd still be talking about the invasion until now?
Well, just like you mentioned, no one knows, that it will, takes this dimension and also the effect becoming a worldwide thing. For example, myself, and many of us who were in Russia during the Soviet Union, we count these people as brothers and sisters. And of course, we never expected, that would be a crisis that will lead to this, military confrontation that is going on. So we never expected it. And of course, it's still, something that we are hoping that it will, go away. And of course, for that to happen, I think the international community should also try to rein in on both sides of the divide.
You're referring to it as a military confrontation, and it's been hard understanding how Russians see this war, because the government is telling them this is a special military operation. Is that still the rhetoric going on in Russia?
Yes, of course. Officially, it is a special military operation. And of course, the reason being that, of course, if it's going to be called something else, then that means that a lot of things will be used in the fighting. So, and I think it doesn't matter what the name you call it, but that human beings are dying at both sides of the divide is something that I think the whole world should be looking at, rather than the terminology being used by any of the group.
Yeah, and I know that Russia and Ukraine do come from, they grow from the same soil, they have the same history and all that. It is difficult, watching what's happening on the other side of the border, seeing people being displaced, moving their things, not knowing where to go. One of those people, of course, were the Nigerian students who were in Ukraine, studying in Ukraine, and NATO was very helpful in getting them resettled across Europe. Talk to us about, how, the efforts that were made during that time and what's happening now.
Yeah, thank you very much. We, of course, in early February, when the issue of, this anticipation that there might be, this, situation we had now. Of course, we, like NATO being the continental chairman, I had to contact all my chapters in Europe, and of course the frontline states of Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, and Romania. We need to, know what exactly we can do to help our compatriots. I was in touch with the ambassador, the Nigerian ambassador to Ukraine, Ambassador Alege, who was also, of the opinion that, of course, maybe there wouldn't be such type of, military confrontation that that have been circulated in the West, because people believe that they are our brothers, that it wouldn't lead, even if it has to be, it will always limit itself to the eastern part of Ukraine, which has been on since 2014. Of course, probably because it is not as the scale is not as much as we have it now. So it seems it's not in the world news, but it had been there. So we were believing that okay, probably it will be as limited to that region, but that it became a whole scale fighting. We never expected that. So what we did was to get information from the embassy. That was an advisory which we also circulated. So what we knew that Nigerians normally few people register with the embassy, so the embassy too might not know whereabouts of Nigerians. So what we did, we had to use all the networks we have, and Nigerian Diaspora Organization, being Europe, all the places in the countries of Europe, we had to mobilize our citizens, for assistance. And I want to also commend those people who contributed financially also for this purpose, to help us, to accommodate, to transport, to feed, a lot of these displaced people who were forced to cross the border to the frontline states of countries of Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, and Romania. And of course, that's the way we started it. And we use all the network, the social network, thanks to the internet, to send information, direct people, navigate them towards the borders, and also to get them connected with our chairpersons of at the chapter level, and the executives whose telephone number we had circulated. We also gave it to Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so that when they are issuing out their information, they could also include that. They also did that to, NIDCOM also did the same, where they used our officers, information to distribute, to circulate to the Nigerians who were looking for safety. And so the students were mostly affected because they are the largest number of, Nigerian citizens living in Ukraine. And we know, of course, of estimate from 6,000 to about 8,000 or 10,000 Nigerians were estimated to be living in Ukraine. But of course, like I mentioned earlier, few people register with the embassy, so we cannot ascertain the number of Nigerians. But what we knew that we need to do was to reach out to make sure that we have a network of Nigerians working. We know the embassies, even if you give them all the staff they need, they only have the capacity to do what they were expected to do in terms of getting Nigerians settled, right. Pending when Nigerian government was to, evacuate them. Of course, that's what we did, and we had to do that for that number of there. And currently, we're still doing it, doing in terms of information sharing. So most of the chapters are still giving them information. In Germany, for example, they have almost a weekly, seminar, information sharing. In Hungary, the same thing is still happening. And we need to do that because we need to know that the students are also having information so that they can move forward in their own life, and get something, get admission. Some of them are seeking for admission in Europe. Some move to Nigeria, but some are still stranded without, any particular thing to do currently.
Yeah, it will be difficult reaching out to everyone who really needs help. So we do appreciate, the efforts that have been made. And, some of them did come back to Nigeria. And I'm sure you've heard in the news already, some professional bodies rejecting the certificates of some of these graduates. How does that make you feel? And can NATO do anything about it?
Of course, we felt bad about this. I read the MDCN, Nigerian Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, issuing, I can say, not friendly, I can say, directive saying the Ukrainian medical students that graduated this year will not be, their certificate will not be recognized because they finished online. But they should know that we are in force majeure. The world has changed since COVID-19. You have hybrid of education now. So they should also think that way. We cannot continue to do things as we are in the past. So what we think they should do it as much as we accept the fact that they need to make sure that the quality of doctors are up to date. And but what they are doing or the way they are going about it is too very hostile for students who who have escaped, with their lives, and finally, after many years of studying, not online, but actual studying in classes, attending clinical practices and all the rest, and now you are telling them that you won't recognize their certificate. That is too. I think that is too, absurd, if I have to use that word. And but with all due respect to the DG of the council, I think what they should do is to reach, they have to reach out to the students, give them alternatives of, probably compulsory, what we call, remedial classes or remedial practice that you can, because which I know, because I'm also a father of a medical doctor. I remember my son also had to do that in Nigeria, whereby they had to do, remedial practice before going for the exams. I think that one was about 3 months or thereabout. But this one, given the situation they are, of course, they stopped classes from January, I think, or February thereabout. That means that they have passed through first semester. Second semester is where the problem is. So if that is the case, why don't you, arrange for something like that, make it compulsory for students who graduated from Ukraine to say, okay, go for this remedial class, and of course with a reasonable cost for them, for them to finish up within 3 months or 4 months, and so that they will be able to sit for the exams probably by November. I know the June exam is already on now. So probably the Ukrainian graduates are not allowed to pass through that. Of course, maybe that's okay. But for November or October, they should allow them to come for these exams. But before then, the council should reach out, because we need medical doctors in Nigeria. For example, I had to convince my son to go to Nigeria for this purpose. Otherwise, of course, he would have joined the bandwagon of people who are now in Canada, in all those places. For their money, but I want him to contribute to Nigerian development, at least for while he's still able to do that. And that is, I think, many Nigerians, wish to have Nigeria develop in all aspects of our endeavor, including medicine. So, so I think the MDCN should be able to do that for them, and reach out to them and make sure that their certificate is not being, belittled.
Yeah, we hope they do change their minds. But just very quickly, Dr. Obashakola, we know that Russia has come under very heavy sanctions from the West. There are over 1,000 of them. How is life in Russia now compared to even before the invasion of Ukraine?
Well, there is, Russians are used to, being in this type of situation. If you remember, Soviet Union was also under sanction. And even some of the sanctions are still on, even though the Soviet Union is no more from America and all this rest. So Russia is used to living under stress and under this type of situation. They are coping well. The situation has not changed much, other than foreign companies leaving the country. And of course, while they are leaving, some of the local investors are happy to buy. They are already buying some of these assets. And of course, the situation is still very under control. Government is doing a lot in this aspect. They are, ditching out a lot of incentives and a lot of, social, payments for their people to make sure that they don't feel the effect. For the inflation, at the initial stage was very high, but now it has stable. And of course, the exchange rate has also come back even stronger than it was before. The reason being that now Russians, prefer their own currency in transaction in oil and gas, and also, importation is limited. As a result, demand for dollars and other foreign currencies is lower. So that makes the ruble stronger. And I think that is the situation now. Of course, with the anticipation that, of course, this might be a little bit difficult going forward, but they believe, and we can see the sign that they are getting prepared. They are looking for alternatives. The logistics, which is the main issue, which are being destructured, is being, they are channeling through other routes. And I think if they continue this way, and of course, there are people who are even more united, more than they were used to be. If you can see the rating of the leadership here is getting higher. And it is true, if you go on the street, you see that it is true, it's not made up. Because there are people who are proud and they wish to be respected by the world because they are the largest in Europe. And I think the world should know that you can't do without Russia in Europe or in the world. And I think the whole world should come together to make them come to the peace together with Ukraine.
Dr. Mashakola, thank you so much. We've learned a lot just through your eyes. And thank you again, for the work NATO has been doing across Europe.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.